Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take your sources, distill the key knowledge, and give you that shortcut to being well-informed.
So today, we're going behind the velvet rope.
We are. And, we all know dating is hard, the swiping, the scheduling, just figuring out if you actually like someone. But the sources today give us a look into a whole different world, a really specific high-pressure environment, celebrity relationships.
And our mission here is to sort of create a diagnostic map of that struggle.
Mhm.
We're using some really exclusive comments from 5 very well-known people: Haley Baldwin, Scarlett Johansson, Vince Vaughn, Jennifer Lopez, and Michael B. Jordan.
Right.
And we're going to unpack exactly why fame doesn't just, complicate romance. It often acts as this disruptive structural force that feels like it's designed to tear it down.
The goal isn't just to report on the gossip, right? It's to understand the actual mechanics of all that melodrama.
Exactly.
So we have to start with the most visceral and immediate hurdle, that moment a relationship goes public. And for that, we're turning to Haley Baldwin.
Yeah, she was reflecting on when she was dating Justin Bieber back in, early 2016.
That's the one.
And it's a stunning place to start because Baldwin was only, I think, 19 at the time of that Marie Claire interview. So it's this really fresh, almost naive perspective.
She hadn't built up the armor yet.
No, not at all.
Absolutely. And she said something so simple, so human. She didn't want attention just for dating somebody, She wanted to date in private, see where it went.
But the celebrity machine, it's just not built for that. It's designed to extinguish privacy.
Yeah.
Instantly.
And this is where that mechanism, that external pressure, it just becomes so clear. She talked about the immediate fallout. I think her quote was, texts started coming through, crazy phone calls.
That right there. That's the horror movie moment.
That's not just like angry fans on social media, is it?
No, not at all. That's a sign that their personal network, their private contacts, maybe even their home phone number, it was all immediately compromised. Just because she was associated with this global figure.
Yeah.
That boundary between public and private, it dissolved.
So the relationship, before it even had a chance to get going, it becomes this publicly owned thing.
A commodity. And she hit this brutal realization that to survive, you have to have really thick skin and be very strong.
A cost of entry is total exposure.
And that defines the first major hurdle we found in the sources. This instantaneous loss of control, the outside world just rushes in and the whole environment changes. They go from, just dating to being a global headline.
Completely against their will.
Yeah, their private life becomes a plot point for everyone else's entertainment.
Okay, so let's unpack that. That sudden rush of attention forces celebrities to become, strategically secretive? Just to keep a tiny bit of normalcy.
Yes. So if Baldwin shows us the consequence, Vince Vaughn really explains the strategy.
Right. This is him talking about his split from Jennifer Aniston back in 2006.
And his approach from his Playboy comments was just total avoidance. He said he never enjoyed the paparazzi side of it.
He said the actual dating part was fine, right? But he spent most of his energy trying to find ways not to be drawn into the attention.
Yeah, he boiled his entire strategy down to, quote, lying low and not talking about it.
It's like his dating life was some kind of classified operation. Which is, that's a bizarre and unsustainable way to try and build trust with someone.
It is, but he saw it as the only way to be a ghost. If they can't see it, they can't report on it.
But Vaughn is only really talking about the visual side, the paparazzi. Jennifer Lopez, she brings in the second, maybe even more damaging layer.
Yes, talking to Glamour in 2011. She's talking about the media's hunger for a conclusion.
The narrative, the story.
Precisely. Lopez said that to really get to know someone, you have to do it out of the public eye. Why? Because the media wants to rush everything.
Okay, so what's the psychological toll of that, of being rushed? Because that feels like it does more than just annoy you. It would fundamentally change how you build intimacy.
Oh, it completely warps the relationship timeline. Think about a normal relationship. You might date casually for 6 months.
A year before you even think about moving in.
Right. Maybe 2 years before an engagement is even on the table. But the media demands that entire cycle happen in, 3 weeks? Or it's a failure.
I see. So the couple is constantly having to ask themselves, are we taking this next public step, the red carpet, the vacation photos, because it's right for us, or because we're just trying to meet the public's deadline?
And that is crippling. They lose that crucial slow burn period you need to build a real foundation. When the world is demanding engagement rings after 2 months, any small, normal fight suddenly feels like a global catastrophe.
So the relationship's survival ends up depending on whether they can satisfy the public's need for a quick, tidy, romantic ending.
The external narrative dictates the internal pace, and that just leads to instability.
That makes perfect sense, but that's all the external stuff. Now we shift, and here's where it gets really interesting, I think. We move from the outside world to the internal dynamics, especially when both partners are major celebrities.
And this takes us straight to Scarlett Johansson. She was discussing her marriage to Ryan Reynolds, which ended back in 2011. And she gives this stunning level of detail about the logistical nightmares.
She laid it out so clearly. The logistics of being with another actor, she said, are challenging, specifically how you share your time.
Yeah, that's the first practical crippling layer. I mean, when both of you have careers that demand months on location all over the globe, just being in the same time zone is a huge win.
But it was the detail from her Cosmopolitan interview about competition that really stood out.
The competitive element, yes.
She said it gets challenging when two people's careers are going at the same rate. But then she added this extra layer.
Which I found fascinating.
Me too. She said, or even if one person is more successful than the other, that also proves challenging. And it can lead to a competitive thing.
This is the ego dynamic in overdrive. In a normal marriage, one spouse might feel pride, maybe some occasional envy about the other's success.
Yeah.
But in Hollywood, your career metric, your box office numbers, your reviews, your salary, it's all public record. It's constantly being compared.
Okay, but hang on. Is that purely a celebrity problem? Or is that just a successful couple problem? Like, what if they were both Fortune 500 CEOs? Wouldn't the travel and the competition be kind of the same?
That's a really important distinction to make. I think the difference is in the public measurement and the type of ego that's invested. A CEO's success is generally private. It's quantitative.
Right, it's numbers on a balance sheet.
Exactly. An actor's success is public validation of their charisma, their talent, their very being. So when your partner is publicly getting more validation, better roles, more money, more attention, it touches a much more primal nerve about your own self-worth.
So you're not just balancing two high-travel careers. You're balancing two high-stakes, ego-driven careers where your success is measured publicly, often against your own partners.
It sounds like a structural recipe for resentment.
It really does. It's not like arguing over who does the laundry. You're arguing over whose blockbuster schedule is more important or whose career feels threatened by the other's success.
And that requires a level of professional selflessness that, frankly, very few high achievers have, especially when they're constantly being told by everyone around them that they are the most important person in the room.
Okay, so we've got the outside world overwhelming them, the professional world creating chaos and competition. But the final challenge from the sources isn't about any of that. It's about the person themselves.
Right.
It's about how that intense focus you need for that level of success affects your actual capacity for intimacy.
And this is where Michael B. Jordan's perspective, from his talk with GQ, is so profound. It's about internal readiness, or maybe intentional unavailability.
He was so frank about it. He just said he was emotionally unavailable, and it felt like a proactive choice, not something that was just happening to him.
He understands what he needs to do to maintain his focus, and he's consciously creating those boundaries.
And he justifies that by listing his priorities, which are, they're all consuming. He said, I need to work on making sure my mom is okay. That's all I care about, honestly.
Which is admirable. Of course it is.
Yeah.
But it also it sucks up all the available emotional energy.
So how does that dedicated family focus make him unavailable? Isn't that just a time management issue?
I think it's deeper than that. It's about emotional bandwidth. Success at that level, it requires total immersion. 100% of your emotional and mental energy has to be dedicated to your work and your core commitments.
In a relationship.
A relationship, by definition, it demands vulnerability, time, risk.
Yeah.
You have to share emotional weight. And when your primary focus is completely consumed, there's nothing left over for a new partner.
He made it really clear that only an undeniable connection could possibly override that dedication. So the bar for entry is just astronomically high.
Exactly. He's basically saying, I'm not going to lower my current priorities for anything less than a once-in-a-lifetime connection.
Because anything less is just replaceable.
Anything that requires compromise is immediately out.
And that worldview, it's perfectly summed up in that one line he had. Females, they come and go.
That phrase, even as a direct quote, it reveals such an important truth about the cost of success. In that environment, relationships aren't a mutual priority. They become this optional secondary thing that has to fit perfectly around these huge existing commitments.
And viewing potential partners as temporary, as consumable, that's just fundamentally incompatible with building trust.
You can't have vulnerability and trust that way. The success itself demands such intense focus that it pretty much necessitates emotional sacrifice. It just pushes intimacy right to the sideline.
This has been a really compelling deep dive into these structural hurdles of celebrity romance. Looking at these 5 accounts, they paint a very, very clear picture of 3 major forces working against any healthy partnership.
To recap, you've got first that overwhelming external attention like we saw with Baldwin, Vaughn, and Lopez, which just strips away all privacy and rushes the natural timeline.
Then second, you have the professional logistics and that internal competition. That's where Johansson showed us how balancing 2 huge global careers just introduces instability and rivalry right into the relationship.
And finally, that personal barrier that Michael B. Jordan articulated so well, the emotional unavailability caused by success itself, where your focus is so consumed by career or family that relationships just become optional, expendable even.
So what does this all mean for you listening?
Well, it means these aren't just, complaints about being rich and famous. They define specific structural reasons why that intense lifestyle makes the normal benchmarks of dating. Things like privacy, time, shared focus, emotional readiness, all of those things become virtually unattainable.
They're functionally set up to fail before they even begin.
Pretty much, yeah.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to chew on.
Based on these accounts, if the ultimate goal of being a celebrity is global success, fame, total focus, is that level of achievement fundamentally incompatible with the patience, the privacy, and the vulnerability that you need for a healthy long-term relationship? Is it possible that the price of becoming a global icon is relational success?
Think about that the next time you see a breakup headline. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.